everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in Super. Welcome back. This is your 18th and final The Rookie Season 7 episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the big old world. Here we are, the end of another season. We've officially hit that endpoint again. Correctly timed, as today is when this is being recorded live. The Disney Upfront just happened. We got a whole slew of information featuring the next year of TV, whether it was on Disney Plus, on Hulu, and of course on ABC. And we did get the official confirmation that The Rookie Season 8 will be premiering in 2026 mid-season. Look, out of my hands, guys. Literally, there's nothing I can do. Personally for me, when you weigh the pros and cons of this decision making, it makes sense. I think that's just the reality where TV is going right now with broadcasts. Is that, if you look over in our neighbors over on NBC, that we just had a huge sweep of cancellation because they want to focus more on NBA. Because in reality, and this could probably be a topic for another time somewhere on a different platform, but honestly, the way live broadcast television is going, it is becoming less and less about scripted shows. I think that's mostly going to be on the streaming platforms, to be honest with you, considering the fact it is very expensive and not as luxurious to continue to create these shows without some sort of streaming component behind them nowadays. So if you can't pull in the live viewers, which is, of course, obviously in these major league sports games, whether that is, the primetime events such as the Olympics, which I believe is coming up in the winter next year, it makes sense to why those would be priority number one for these broadcast stations as they continue to find ways to survive in this, current, more dominant streaming focused future, in general, more digital future. So to be surprising, for me personally speaking, I have no real issues, no real quarries of ABC moving The Rookie to next year in January. For me personally speaking, from what I read in the report, that The Rookie and Will Trent's decision to have a much more very strong, no breaks, full run of a season and you just gotta wait a few extra months. Honestly, for me, it's better because, to be honest, I prefer in terms of my personal life to have those mini breaks so I could start giving more time to my my close loved ones and everything. But at the same time, as a viewer and as a reviewer, I love just having that cadence of going into the next week's episode without knowing of reminding myself, oh, are we on a break? Are we on a hiatus this week? Not that that's perfectly natural, and obviously on our other end with Madlock, that's obviously a key component to it. But for me, with The Rookie, I think this is the best case scenario where, you have such I think it's a really good strategy, and I have no complaints about it. Obviously, we're going to have to wait now another 7-month interval at least before Rookie Season 8 starts up again. And, by the time they even release it, the show will be done shooting. So, which, again, whenever I talk about critiques with a season, usually those could be addressed mid-season while they're in production, since okay, they don't like this thing, okay, let's change it by the halfway mark because we have that opportunity to change it. And I think for me, we'll talk more about this in a couple of weeks when we do the season 7 spoiler-free review for The Rookie, but I think they're so deep in the game now that they know what works and what doesn't work. And that we're willing to pay a sacrifice as, at this point, having concluded Season 7, going into Season 8, I think it's very clear that the fans that are here knows exactly what they want. They know exactly what the show is going to be entailing. And that, okay, if we don't like this or this about it, then they'll address that next season, whether it is going to be another year wait. I think that's just the cost of the game there. That really much is. And, I think we're just going to have to, play it in strides as we, progress forward into that and see where things may come to me. But yeah, so The Rookie Season 8 will be premiering in 2026. We will be back in 2026 with more episode reviews. We will be doing a definitive Season 4 review, probably before the holidays, which I'm like, oh my god, the fact is that whenever we reach the end of this, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the next review season. I'm like, that's going to be the next year. And we're going to be in the same time period here. So essentially, it's a whole year away. Who the heck knows where things are going to be in a year from now? I really don't know. For me personally, and just in life, I don't know. But with that being said, going into the season finale review, I apologize for all that, the side pieces there. What did I think about the season finale, Season 7's conclusion? I thought it was good. Sadly, some of my fears were realized. Where yeah, this was kind of lining up to be another season 4 finale, where literally it was just like, what is the coincidence of like season 4 has Nolan going to the desert and season seven's finale has Nolan going to the desert, and I'm just like, I don't know. I literally, I could not call it, mind you. I really could not. I do believe this is better than the season 4 finale, considering the fact there is a bit of like a OMG factor to like, where do we go next season? I think there's more of an impact there. So I will give it that. As if we're ranking season finales, I think, it's subpar. It's about like the normalness. It's not like one of those big highs where like we were at the end of, what season were we at? I think we were at the end of season 3. I think season three's finale was like the biggest oh my god moment, and then everything else since then has not been able to reach that, or at least had that variation of it. I think this just is another variation of it, where like it, in a way, concluded the story of season 7, and at the end of the day, obviously teed up what season 8's going to be. And honestly, now having a really kind of a good inkling of an idea where season 8's going to go, it really entices me. It really intrigues me. And obviously, they can, wherever things go, because honestly, I've spoke about this time again with just how the way broadcast television is going, and I know people never like to have these conversations, but like, as a show gets older and everything, so it comes time to talk about affinity to it. And I really don't want Rookie Season 8 to be the last one. I really don't. Like, if Grey's Anatomy can go on for 22 seasons, shouldn't The Rookie do as well? To be fair, that's a conversation for another day. I just don't, I always said this before, once the era of Grey's Anatomy and all the other NCI, CSI shows come to an end, yeah, essentially I will never ever live in a reality where like a TV show can go even beyond 10 years. I think if The Rookie somehow manages to go into season 10, I think that's a miracle. But in reality, we're just going to have to wait and see. Obviously, this is the second go-around for Nathan Fillion, hitting one of his shows on ABC, hitting in a season. Will this be the bad luck go-around where we don't get a season 9? I don't know. I really don't know. It has to remain to see. We have the spin-off, everything coming up, supposedly, that focuses on a different corner of the United States with a different veteran, a different older individual joining the police force. So, how does that go around with the larger thing? I really don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't. It could just be like, an idea, a circulation, and then we'll take it from there on that front. But in all honesty, it's a really good way for me. Like, I could easily see them going to a specific locale to kind of wrap it up. But at the end of the day, it just serves as like, okay, you know what? I'm a little bit intrigued to what season 8 has in store next. And I think that was the purpose of the season finale, is to not only end your season off right, but if you have an opportunity to really tease your audience of like, hey, come back for more. Like, we're not done yet. We're not, our pedal's still on, dude. We're not accelerating. So stay tuned for that. But again, with all that being said, let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of The Rookie. So we begin in the nighttime as, yes, Officer Chen is no longer Officer Chen. She is now Sergeant Chen. She has now been promoted to Sergeant in Mid-Wilshire's night shift patrol. Obviously, Bradford is occupying the daytime shift from morning to evening, and now Chen is going to be handling the second half of Mid-Wilshire's business day. Gray's out, Nolan's out, everyone's out. She's all by her lonesome self, occupying a new brass of the LAPD force she has never heard about before, and that are calling this equivalently the Dream Team. So as much as Chen is like, okay, well, new beginnings. I still got my friends in the morning shift, but this is just the sad reality of reality to get that big bonus. So she starts off her night shift, kind of doing very mediocre jobs. Not really any. Obviously, you assume the night shift would be more. Obviously LA is bigger. I've only been in LA. I think a grand total of like for about 10 days a few years ago. So I don't know how the environment is right now. And obviously this is just a fictional version of it, but like I assume the nighttime crime rate should be pretty up, but Chen is luckily not getting into like any major encounters, so to speak. But she gets the vibe that like, I'm answering all these calls, but no one's answering the other jobs in the meantime. So she always, as soon as she finishes one job, she goes to the next job, and so on and so forth. So eventually she asks the dispatcher to kind of triangulate where are her other units, where are the people under her wing. So she heads on over to the location which ends up to being the parking lot for the LAPD, and she sees all the shops just sitting on the top floor with all the officers just sleeping away. And obviously Chen yells at them, like, what the hell are you doing? And they're like, oh, no, we were just being coordinated. You know, as soon as something happens, boom, we're ready to go. We're all together. If there's a big incident, and Chen obviously is like, no, like the whole point to be a patrol unit is to be on patrol, to be on the street, because you never know, like, you know, like what if a crime happens 20 blocks away, which is like 10, 15 minutes away from us, and like, you know, precious time. And obviously Chen is like really immediately mad, but obviously she's kind of, you know, have to find her footing since, again, she just began this unit. She doesn't want to be the outlier, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, it's not acceptable. In the interject, we cut to the morning where, Nolan decides in his free time that it's, you know, he's no longer having a kid with Bailey. Some other things have kind of, you know, have kind of lessened down in the field. He's taking some off-duty work to kind of, you know, figure out the remaining question, which I completely forgot about since the season premiere. Where the fuck is Oscar? Like, pardon my French, but like, where is he? Like, it's been over the whole season. I'm like, we haven't popped on. Like, I just realized, like, Oscar has not been involved in this entire season so far. Where the hell is he? But, yeah, so Oscar's in the wind, and Nolan's been kind of taking some, you know, minor, whenever he gets an opportunity to kind of check in, look around the larger, you know, Pacific West, seeing if there's any, like, you know, unusual reports that can kind of connect to Oscar. He's found quite a bit of much, and he's apparently found that there was a string of robberies that Oscar performed many, many years ago with an old crew of his, and all of a sudden, conveniently, his old crew members got booked for that, but not Oscar. And then those other crew members suddenly got out for them, but as soon as they got out, they died. So I'm like, okay, this is too coincidental. And the last one in their crew is now scheduled to leave today. So Nolan now having that little bit of like, you know, okay, there is cause for concern there. So he immediately heads to the station, immediately pitching the entire idea to Gray, and obviously Gray asked the major question, did you ask Garza about it? Because, like, you know, like, Garza's cool, he's my homie, so I'm like, you know, did you make sure, because, like, again, like, you know, Oscar escaping a federal institution is kind of, you know, like a feds-related case, you know, and would it be great if we had, like, you know, a whole show about the feds, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And Rookie's like, not Rookie, and Nolan's like, yeah, no, I did ask Garza, but he's like, it's an entertaining idea, and it's a really good theory, but again, it's not really that credible to send out a Fed agent out there to like go handle it, so Nolan having all this thing in brass, and Gray's like, you know what? Since you're showing so much initiative right now, that, you know what, why don't you head out there? I'll make you acting detective for this case only, and, you know, take Harper with you, see what you can find, and report back. You know, maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. We'll see how, you know, things come up with that. So obviously this is great, and I know some people on the internet, because like I read the scuttlebutt online of like Nolan getting the golden ticket, getting the promotion, getting a lot of different things, while Chen has suffered a lot in her past few years. And trust me, I've been saying that as well when it comes to Chen's, you know, development and all the things that's happened to her in the last, you know, few seasons, that like, you know, she hasn't not even come close to even getting any of the line of promotions that Nolan has gotten recently. So. And the fact that, okay, Chen finally made sergeant. Oh, Nolan's acting detective, or like at least Detective Nolan is in the words of a couple of the characters. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it is what it is. Chen returns back to her house while Juarez is beginning her morning routine to begin her shift for the day. And obviously Chen's like really frustrated with everything going on. She immediately opens a bottle of Chardonnay, ready to kind of, you know, drink her morning away so she can knock out and then, you know, get some sleep in for the next night shift and everything. And then Juarez asks a very obvious question that a lot of the community has been asking. So now that you're officially sergeant, does that mean we're going to see Bradford more often than not? And obviously Chen gets a little bit like confused. But I was like, what does me being sergeant have anything to do with Bradford? And she's like, well, no, because like, you know, a big major thing to kind of prevent you guys from trying your romance again was because, you know, you were not a sergeant, you were his essentially under his chain of command. So that kind of, you know, raises questionability about your ethics. And now that you're both, you know, on polar opposite ships, you're both on the same commandeering title, that essentially you guys could resume dating without having issues from the LAPD. And she's like, yeah, but, you know, it wasn't just, that was the only reason why we broke up. There's other things, and we still haven't been addressed about, which I'm just like, these two freaking fools. How do we go for a whole season without then having a conversation about this? Like, really? Really? And then we cut to the same parallel where, like, you know, Bradford's having the same conversation with Lopez about, you know, now that Chen's the sergeant, does that mean they can easily get back together? And Bradford's like, he would love that, but at the same time, you know, they work on polar opposite schedules now, so as soon as she's kind of resting for the night, he's beginning his day. So it's kind of, you know, very difficult to have, like, those aligning schedules to even make a relationship work. But, of course, obviously, Lopez calls him out, like, you can make the time. Like, if you really put your heart to it, you can make the time. Which Bradford's like, I know. And he's going to think about it. But they'll interject to that a bit later on. Then we cut over to Nolan and Harper heading out into the desert once again, preparing themselves for this potential case. Harper's just only really acceptable of this because like, she gets to have her own bed again, like able to catch up a little bit of her sleep in case this does go nowhere, which is kind of like her expectation about it to not be the ones to capture Oscar this time around. But also, obviously feeling a little optimistic, being acting detective, like seeing where he can go with this field, and see where that leads to be. Because to be honest with you, it's just to take a sidestep for a second, do I expect her to be a new rookie next season? I don't believe so. I think, we're still finishing up Miles' story. And it's just very random of how the academy works. Like, if I'm aware correctly, normally, every year you get a new batch of rookies. So, they followed that suit with season 3. But then when season 4 came about, it kind of didn't really match up in the timeline. Unless they were, doing a proper September start, which is what they did. It's just kind of weird how they were able to, kind of explain it. And then, then not too long later, Selena joined. So, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how that all turns out to work out to be. Juarez and Penn are setting up their shops. Penn is apparently now ready to go back on the scene. Now that he's kind of finding his footing in the LAPD. He's been a few months into his FTO program training. I think he's ready to start micromanaging with potentially having a dating life and being back on there on the apps. And it's a little bit, I mean, again, look, Miles, you're a tall man, very attractive man. You got the muscles, you got the look, you got the charm. I mean, I think you'll be doing fine on your own. And Juarez gives a little bit of critiques on his dating app, trying to see where he can go on that. Bradford chimes in and just say, yeah, no, dating in in the modern days is just very, very hard. In the old days, you used to go to a bar, you find someone you like, you approach them, you talk, and if she wants you, she'll say yes to your date proposal. Otherwise, you just move on to the next day. But honestly, again, Penn is just just kind of just taking a charade, and we just continue on our merry way on that one. I believe Chen is now trying to get some sleep, but however, she realizes there's a lot of construction going around around her apartment complex, so she's not able to get proper, adequate sleep as expected with that one. Nolan and Harper arrive at the motel of the last murder. The local law enforcement kind of fills them in on it, also trying to just cross hairs, okay, they'll be conducting more of a watch operation to see if Oscar does show up. The prospective last inmate should be showing up any day now to check in, because this is leading to, this is the connect between the prison they were at and also where the rumored diamonds would be held up as. So this would be a great place for it. Nolan does some network building, finding a local kid and his mom in the motel as the kid is playing with his drone. Apparently he and his mom are heading up to Vegas to start a brand new life. And with the drone, Nolan's like, what? Here's my card. Give me a call if you find anything. I'll be delighted to hear out what it is. Then we cut back over to the shop where Miles is still talking about the dating thing, and Bradford's giving just his 2 cents on the idea. Miles did get a match to it. Eventually, Miles does kind of cross the line a little bit when he says, "Oh, how did Chen even put up with you?" And I'm like, "Oh no, my dude! Look, Bradford has improved in his sociability skills in seasons current. So don't get me wrong about that, but you do not say those words to him when he's he has given you a lot of power. I don't think Miles has gotten even close to anywhere that Tim has given Chen in the past. So." Yeah, and Tim does not appreciate that. He kind of goes off on him a little bit, ready to kind of demean him and ready to really make him go for a proper Tim test. But however, a local call comes in, so they got to respond to it. It's a local bank robbery gone wrong. They do find the bank robber running. All the money's falling out of the bag. I'm just like, damn, this dude did not plan accordingly on that front. So eventually he just dropped because he could not run. I don't know. At least if you see any heist movies, you plan on having at least a getaway driver, or at least having an Uber driver ready. I mean, that would have been my 2 cents on the matter. So they immediately arrest him. The guy's saying, "Oh my God, no, you can't arrest me. You got to understand, it was for my girlfriend. She's gonna die. I need to get her money for her surgery. So please be lenient on me." But obviously, no. You somehow successfully rob a bank. You're going away. That's a set done deal. We reach back out to Nolan and Harper, who are still scouting, who are still getting ready for everything. I believe they do finally notice the third guy. He comes in. He's bought some very, conspicuous items, such as the a shovel and some of the storage. So he is preparing to go get those diamonds at some point. So they're just gonna wait and see. And also, they're just wondering, if they're watching this guy, do we think Oscar's watching him? And then, of course, yes, obviously Oscar is watching him from a distance. And then that's when he notices Nolan. I'm like, oh, goody, like. I lured out the big guns. That's wonderful. Damn, Oscar. Yeah, you concern me sometimes. So from there, I want to say we cut back over to proper LA. So they bring the guy into booking. Lopez immediately interrogates him. He explains to himself, like, I got this girlfriend overseas. She has a life-threatening condition. Somehow her blood types always changes, so it's very difficult for doctors to kind of, ascertain what blood type she needs. So essentially, they need to purchase and have all of the available blood types. So if something happens mid-surgery, they can switch it out, but it's going to cost them a lot of money. And then when he shows them a picture of his girlfriend, it's an AI photo because the girl has like 7 fingers instead of 5, and I'm just like, ladies and gentlemen, in this world of AI, be very careful. Be very, very careful. Like, look at the photos, look at everything, look at every little detail. Really pay attention. I know it's like a swiping game. I understand that, but like, no. You gotta do your diligence because you never know when the next catfish. You could be the next catfish story online. You never know. And then that's when he also says, "Oh, my wife's gonna kill me." And I'm just like, my dude, what the. The fact that we even have a wife, okay, and obviously everyone's just shocked at the matter of, like, what's going on here. But regardless of how it is, even if it's a Catholic, he's still committed the crime. He's still got to pay for that. That's not something that can easily be, a slap on the wrist or anything of the sort. They call over the wife and they try to explain to him, and she's like very not really reactive towards it. So it kind of raises some red flags on that with that whole regard. So we'll cut the back. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. We hit the nighttime where Chen is beginning her shift as the other 3 are wrapping up their shifts. Obviously, they're just kind of comparing notes. Chen learning that Miles is going to go on a date. Juarez providing some insight. Bradford and her kind of like, eyeing each other a little bit. Not having communication. And then even Juarez getting the vibe, like, what, Miles? I want to show you something. Let's go this way by ourselves. And then Bradford and Chen managed to have a little conversation, just saying about they should definitely meet up to talk, maybe have some breakfast. And Chen's like, of course, I would love to have that. And they decide to agree for Wednesday as the dream team of sorts returns back to duty. And Chen has to load another night of working with these very engageful people, so to speak. Miles heads out to the restaurant at the beginning of his date, and the date's very much like, on her phone, like, not really being too engageful. No, that's another cut sign. Like, if you can find a way to end it early, find a way to end it early. Because, just a tip of advice from the Joes. First minutes of a first date are very insightful to see how the rest is going to go. You got to be open, you got to be engageful, obviously. And I don't even know why I'm going to a dating advice thing on this platform. Eventually, Miles kind of gets some concerning cues, so he heads into the kitchen. He calls Juarez up, asking her to give her like a bit of can you run her get a background check and everything. While Miles is kind of a bit paranoid that this could not go well, and sadly his paranoia is confirmed as she does have a connection to a local gang who does not like law enforcement very much. So once Miles kind of looks outside, she notices like the nearby gang members ready to kind of come, which I'm just like, that's a very bold statement. The fact they were like gearing up to get him. That was very bold. And so eventually, thankfully, Miles manages to get away not too easily, but he manages to get away kind of swiftly, heading outside quickly, commandeering a vehicle from a civilian, contacting Chen. She calls in the entire cavalry. It's a bit of a brief chase sequence, but they managed to corner them all together, which I'm just like, damn. Big rest for the night crew. I'm just gonna call it ace for spades on that one. But thankfully, Miles is alright. He's all safe and sound. Then we cut back over to the desert where Nolan is on first watch as he's allowing Harper to kind of get some, relaxation, some rest in while Nolan's kind of watching. I believe that's when Bailey gives him a call just to check in on him and, everything's all right, that hopefully they can get Oscar put a bed to this entire chapter for good. Since he's the last loose connection from the Jason escape from last season. And then, so from there, he decides to get a little bit of an energy drink from a nearby vending machine, which he does so, but sadly Oscar planned ahead and he does electrocute him, knocking him out and taking him hostage, which I'm just like, oh, Nolan. Nolan, what have you done this time? What have you gotten yourself into? As he's stuck in the back of the car while freaking Oscar's singing "Hit Me With Your Best Shot," which I'm like, I had some flashbacks because I'm watching King the Hill, not for the revival, but just for my own, like, because it's been a while since I watched it. And yeah, it is for the revival, which hopefully should be coming out very soon. So I'm very eager to like get back to that. And they were just playing one of the songs in one of the episodes, like "Hit Me With Your Best Shot." I better not say more because otherwise YouTube will copyright me for like singing a falsetto version of that. Harper wakes up, immediately gets mad at Nolan for not waking her up earlier, but however, once she goes outside, she finds a trail of blood from the vending machine. Yeah, the recently released convict is killed, and the drone kid manages to say, like, oh, he was doing some morning surveillances, and he manages to find that, indicating, like, yeah, okay, Nolan's been kidnapped by Oscar. What are the odds of that? Harper calls in for backup from everything from feds to local PD and everything, just trying to, like, get all eyes and attention to get Nolan, considering the fact this is the desert and it's a very last field with very limited resources, so it would be very wise for them to get some backup over here. Harper even pleading to the mom to get the kid to assist on the matter, since he does have the drone and everything, so this could cover more ground for Harper rather than just driving around. So the mom, with some hesitation, does agree on that, on the condition that she protects her son. Nolan's driven out to a halfway mark where Oscar brings him out. Apparently the treasure game that Oscar's looking for, the diamond, apparently the convict that just died, apparently he tattooed it on his arm, which I'm just like, no, like, and he chopped off the arm. Like, dude, Oscar, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you are a sociopath. You are legitimately a sociopath. I've known you for 8 years now. You are 100% a sociopath. Yeah, so from there, yeah, so they continue onwards, Nolan being held hostage, being like the leading man as Oscar has his six, as they're pursuing onwards, as Harper and the kid are trying to find them, using the drone at all angles. They did overshoot, so they reverse back, which does give Nolan a little bit more time onto that. They eventually do find the spot, and Oscar, like any very cruel motherfucker does, makes Nolan dig up the hole so that he can get the diamonds, and then also once he's done with the deed, he'll bury Nolan in there. So Nolan takes his sweet time while Harper and the kid manages to find the car, and then they manage to find him. However, once they kind of notice no one finds the diamonds, and he's kind of running out of time, Harper instructs the kid to like ram the drone into Oscar, which thankfully it does work out, and Nolan using the opportunity to kind of get a little bit of the advantage to Oscar, but sadly Oscar does manage to weasel his way out of there without the diamonds, thankfully. Running away as his escape vehicle was not too far away from there. Nolan taking over his gun, trying to get both Oscar and the copter down. Harper also intervening to assist with the kid just stuck in the middle, just like, oh my god. I'm gonna, okay, kid, relax. Just you're tiny. You'll fit comfortably under the seat. They shoot, however, sadly, it's just not effective. Oscar manages to get away, but he doesn't get the diamonds. So at least that's the important part. At least he doesn't have the funds to really fund his second part of the getaway. So sadly, while he is away, it won't be that long. So at least, yeah, so Nolan saved, they got the diamonds, and at least Oscar's plan was somewhat thwarted, even though they lost a couple lives in the process. But we don't focus on that aspect, to be honest with you. We cut to the next morning where Lopez brings back in the wife of the failed bank robber back in. Apparently she was the one who made the AI, as the IP address for the AI photo came from her house, and since it's very unlikely for this guy, who seems very believable, who seemed very upset over the fact that his fake girlfriend was not in fact real. And she does, like, basically admit, okay, yes, I did, but, like, you don't understand, like, living with him for so many years, being married to him was, like, so much, and, like, if I was divorced him regularly, like, why would I even, like, I don't want to give him 50-50. If I could get a divorce while he's in prison, I would get everything, This was a way to, like, kind of, be a much more victimless crime, basically speaking, but no, she's going to get charged for that, and, at least, to prove kids. Communication is key in any relationship. Just let that be a lesson. Even Nolan and even Lopez and Wesley getting a couples moment in there about just their communication as well, just making sure they're on the same page about it. But however, before they can like call it a case and move on to the next thing, Gray walks up to them and say, "Hey, look, Garza summoned us for a thing tomorrow morning. It's a pretty big thing, so it's going to be a somewhat of an all hands on deck kind of situation that's developing." Chen finishes up her night shift, and when she returns home, she does not find Juarez cooking breakfast. She finds Bradford there, which I'm like, how do you get in there? Interesting. So he's cooking up everything of all Chen's favorite meals to kind of, just kind of, start her, end her day off strong and everything. And, while Chen is very, thoughtful of it, she's very, happy with it. Obviously, Bradford leans into the conversation of like, obviously the last few months has not been easy for us as we have to mitigate post-relationship, Bradford taking therapy on the side, them trying to figure out what are they really with all the hookups and everything. Like, it's been very difficult to kind of, really gauge what are they? What are they now? A whole season and a half removed from everything that happened in season 6. Where does that leave them? And Bradford wants to give things another chance, and he thinks a really good way for them to really figure out where things can go because of their current situation with their jobs is for Chen to move in with Bradford. And I'm just like, damn, dude, damn, like that's a big step, don't you think? And however, before he can get Chen's answer, she passed out. I'm just like, that was a little corny, not gonna lie to you. And the way Bradford said to be continued, which I'm just like, oh great, are we gonna have to go for the entire season 8 again? Like, are we seriously gonna have to go for that? Like, whatever. Okay. Fine. We cut over to the Feds, one of a major Feds building, where Gray, Wesley, and Lopez are greeted by Nolan, who's also there, who, again, like, Gray's a little confused why Nolan was summoned here, and Nolan just assumed that, I thought Garza wanted an update on the Oscar case. Apparently, after Oscar made his getaway, both the helicopter pilot and the shooter both were killed upon their arrival, so Oscar clearly got rid of them, and then, is now in parts unknown, but we'll probably come back to him some other day. Garza immediately comes straight to them and explains to them, look, something happened recently of national security. It was a really big confidential leak that came to our light. The proposed garnisher of this information came to us with this information, with obviously wanting some provisions to be able to pursue forward. And obviously, Garza advised against, the higher council to allow this individual to get this immunity process of it. But however, they didn't listen, considering the fact that the information that she had in her possession was greatly more important than the crime she committed. So sadly, she had gotten full immunity for her previous actions. And obviously everyone's wondering who could it be. And then that's when Wesley realizes, wait, if I'm summoned here, I'm not law enforcement. And that's when he realized, oh no. That's right. Monica has gotten full immunity from her actions from before. Because, again, if you remember from the bus episode, she was the one who stole... I thought it was Nolan's phone, but no, she stole it from another federal agent's phone. And having that in her control now allowed her to have a big bargaining chip with the higher-ups, and now she has gotten full immunity. Now she's able to kind of, resume her operations without having, it's basically a clean slate, basically speaking. So now it's like, no. And now they're in for a whole new fight next season on The Rookie, because that was it for the season 7 finale of The Rookie. I really enjoyed the finale. I really did. I think getting Oscar in the West was kind of like something that I wasn't expecting. I do love his banter with Nolan. Not gonna lie to you. So keeping him open-ended to kind of come back was, it's a little cliche, but you know what, it is something to keep the wagon away, at least getting another Oscar appearance at some point next season as well. Lopez with the AI story was a little fun. It was a little fun to, say that Miles almost getting shot on his first date post his breakup. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Miles is going to take a long break from dating after that. Like, I wouldn't imagine him getting back on the saddle anytime soon. And then you have Bradford and Chen trying to have a conversation finally, but them not having a conversation, which I'm like, you know what? We'll talk about more of that in season 7 in the review, but I was not entirely a big fan of that. I would have liked to have some sort of let's settle this now, because we had 18 episodes of this back and forth, and the fact we didn't get much progress on it. Again, I understand why they did it like that, but still, Come on, like, this is gonna be. Look, I trust the right, but like we gotta move past it. We gotta get them back in a relationship. Let's just get it out of the way. Let's make the goal. Next 5 episodes of season 8. This is gonna be done. And if we don't get it, I'll tweet out to Alex. Alex Hardley just like begging him, like, are we gonna get to Chenford? Are we gonna get back to that? I'll be a vocal supporter on that one. Fine, I will be. We'll come back tomorrow down 2026. But yeah, honestly, Monica now becoming the new big bad of the Rookie. You know, like I said before, we need a good big bad. Obviously, you know, we could say Elijah. He's still in prison somewhere. You know, we lost a couple of the past ones, but you know, her kind of like now being big bad for season 8. You know, I'm intrigued. I mean, you know, the way Oscar kind of teased it out during the episode, like she has some plans. I'm like, all right, I want to see those plans. Like, I really, really do. Like, you know, I'm best expecting it. But until then, you know, we're going to have to wait in regard. We're going to have to wait regard on that one. But honestly, again, I think they did a good job wrapping up the season. I think this was still an entertaining finale. And it does leave the stakes high for where season 8 is going to go. But with all that being said, I'm giving this episode 2 thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of this week's episode, this finale of The Rookie Season 7. Did you love it? Did you like it? Let me know down below. I would love to have a conversation with you about it, as always. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's New from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the 7th season of The Rookie, having completed it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to know what we're doing normally, what's to do besides our Rookie episode reviews, we are doing Suits LA episode reviews each and every Sundays after Apprentices on NBC. But if you don't care about The Rookie, for the new episode reviews, this is the end. This is the last episode review for Season 7. We will return next week with our Season 8 predictions video, where I'll be giving my thoughts on what I would love to see in Season 8 coming up in the future. And after that, the following week, we will get our Season 7 spoiler-free review for anyone who has yet to catch out the full season of Rookie, which will now be available fully on Hulu. But again, if this is all you want from me, if that's all you want, then thank you so much for watching. Another 5 months have gone by pretty fast, sadly. You know, obviously, it was only a very decent portion of the year. There's a whole second half left, so go enjoy your summer, enjoy your fall. Go watch Matlock. That would be my other show I would recommend to you. I'm not trying to plug any corners there, but, you know, I'm doing what I do. There's a whole boatload of shows out there. You know, we will return with The Rookie then and there. But, yeah. But other than that, you know, like I said, we'll see you then. If you are going to stick around for the next 2 weeks of content, I'll see you then. But again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You know, I love the Rookie fan base so much. 7 seasons of watching with you guys, 6 seasons of reviewing it live. So much memories we've had. So much. How much more we have left? I don't know. I really don't know. You know, we're at that point where like any season could be the end. Next season could be the end. Season 9 could be the end. Season 10 could be the end. I don't know. I really don't know. But just never get me wrong. I love you guys so much. I enjoy this fan base so much, and I really do hope when we do come back in Season 8 that it'll just be another season and not the last season. I hope so. We'll see how it'll go. We'll see. But again, please enjoy your summers to everyone out there. I can't wait to see you all like tweeting away, like commenting online again by this time next year. By the time we hit the end of the holiday season, I can't wait for that. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow us on social media for more. But until we see each other again next time around, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.